Is your ego hiding emotions from you? One day I was writing an email to someone and giving a very long explanation for something. Before I hit send, I read over this email, and then I started to see that there were some emotions underneath this long rant that I was going on. And it turns out that there was some anger and resentment and even jealousy behind my message. So I didn't send the email, and instead I decided to journal about these feelings and what I really felt towards this person. This revealed a lot to me about this idea of the ego in our mind and how it actually hides our emotions, what we call negative emotions. In society, we are taught that there are some acceptable and positive emotions like happiness or gratitude, feeling peaceful, feeling calm. And then there are the unacceptable negative emotions, or so society teaches us that way. And these can include anger, jealousy, rage, sadness, loneliness. All of those things are often demonized. So what happens is, as children, when we first start expressing those emotions freely, starting from when we're infants, if our caretakers did not allow the full expression of those emotions, then they start to become more and more muted in the person, because the person develops beliefs that say it's not safe to actually express this rage or fear or jealousy. It's not acceptable. So what the child does is it pushes it down into what is now called the unconscious mind. The unconscious and conscious mind implies that there is actually a split in the mind. And really, in our true nature, there's no such thing as a split. A split is an indication that something has gone wrong, that the mind is in fact operating in a dysfunctional way. So when we split off parts of ourselves, the jealous parts, the angry parts, the sad parts, when they get split off into the unconscious mind, they become repressed, they become buried. And so it turns into our shadow. And our shadow can consist of things that seem completely foreign or alien to us, like, this isn't me. I'm a happy, cheerful person, and who is this? But a lot of times, you might find that you're acting in a way that seems out of character, and it just shows up and expresses itself in certain settings that feel really triggering, so that shadow just comes out. The repressed material gets triggered and it just needs to express. This is what happens when those shadow areas of ourselves, those emotionally repressed areas, have not been seen. They have not been looked at. So they seem to be very unfamiliar to us. And in this scenario where I experienced this blind spot of jealousy that I had not looked at, it was evident to me that my own ego was hiding away emotions, hiding away parts of itself, so that the light of my awareness would not shine upon it. And what happens when our awareness does meet these shadow areas? Well, just like the light turned on to a dark space completely eliminates the darkness, when I journaled about those emotions of jealousy and anger and resentment, essentially I could feel those emotions just disappearing, just vanishing from my feeling field. I could feel lighter. I felt a sense of something had released in me. And these emotions ultimately are coming from false beliefs. For example, in the situation with me and the other person, I had experienced jealousy because I thought that that person had certain qualities and certain gifts that I didn't have, or I perceived that I didn't have, and that I thought made that person more valuable in the world, more worthy, and more deserving of love. It ultimately comes back to this sense of not feeling worthy because we have believed certain beliefs, and they are false beliefs, they are limiting beliefs. It is not true that those qualities in that person make that person more lovable or more worthy. And yet, because I believed that, I held back my own gifts. I held back my own authentic expression. And in a sense, when I believe those false beliefs, I am cutting myself off from Source, or God, you could say, Source, which is infinite happiness, divine love. When I believe the false beliefs, I'm cutting myself off from happiness. And then I feel anger, I feel jealousy, and so on. But when the light of awareness was shining in that moment of journaling on those feelings, then it got to the beliefs underneath that were generating those feelings. So it's always very important to examine our own feelings, look at ourselves. What feelings am I hiding underneath this action that I'm about to take? Is it really coming from my true nature, my true authentic expression, or is it coming from a reactive part of the ego that actually wants to express some sort of repressed emotion? The truth is, there's no such thing as a good or bad emotion. Everything in our human experience is meant to be felt and meant to be lived. And it's only then, once it's fully lived, that we can truly move on to something new. If we don't fully embody the emotions and fully come into the experience of them, then we will keep repeating those experiences like a pattern or a cycle. And the more we keep distracting away or hiding away from those difficult emotions from the past that really point back to our past, back to our childhood, back to our very early experiences of life, the more we push those experiences away, the more life is going to keep repeating them to us so that we can finally look at them. We are meant to look at all of our blind spots. And once you do shine your awareness on an emotion and you really feel it and it gets released, you start feeling lighter and you start to feel the reality of your true nature, which is infinite happiness, infinite peace, and a sense of calm and contentment. This is your real nature. But in order to get to it, You have to look at the blocks that are in the way of that. So you can do this by yourself, or you can also seek help for moving through these emotions, moving through these difficult experiences. So remember to shine the light of your awareness through self-observation by going back inward and observing the reality within. And then as you keep doing this, each fragment of the ego starts to crumble and disappear and be released back into source.